Hi everyone, and welcome to the documentation health check session. I'm going to wait a bit for other participants. If you want to join the session, I've posted the link on IRC, and if you're willing to join and discuss live, it would be great. So if you are watching this, you probably know that for documentation, we have a main website, which is developer.ubuntu.com. I'm posting the link on IRC, and it's basically split into parts. You have a part with guides and tutorials, and there is also a part on API reference docs. It would be useful if you are a user just to share your experience with it. Oh, here is David Planella joining us. Hey, David.
Hi, David. See, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good, good. All right. Let me load the Etherpad. I was just in another session, and I thought it'd be interesting to hear this one.
I'm posting a link to the Etherpad on IRC. So this is the documentation health check session. And the original idea was to have feedback from developers. But I guess we can start by just chatting between us and maybe give me and everyone your impression of the state of the documentation right now.
All right. Are we focusing in general documentation for developers or Snappy in particular?
Developer documentation in general.
Okay. I mean, I think from being involved in the work that's been happening in the last few months, I think we're pretty good in terms of actual content, in terms of tutorials, and in terms of guidelines. We haven't been working that much on the phone developer side of things lately because we've been focusing more on Snappy, and I think there we're also looking pretty good in terms of actual content. One thing that I always wonder is if we could do a better job at essentially pointing developers to the right type of content. So, I mean, in practical terms, making sure that we've got good landing pages with next steps that essentially bring you to a journey instead of having all of the content in one place. And this is actually one of the things that we're doing with the Snappy information architecture review right now. So I'm wondering whether it is something we might want to do in general terms for the whole website, especially because of the fact that there are different ways of getting involved in developing apps for Ubuntu. It's not just traditional apps, but it's about developing scopes or developing web apps or developing HTML5 apps. I was actually doing a presentation at the WooCon Berlin where I was talking about these different 4 paths essentially to get involved in writing apps to Ubuntu. Sorry, in writing apps/scopes for Ubuntu. And yeah, I mean, I'm wondering whether we can, I'm wondering whether we can do a better job at having very, very crisp documentation on where to start, as in if scopes is something that we want to promote as the innovative way of writing or bringing content to Ubuntu, to direct people to scopes, but at the same time then recommend the other, illustrate the other paths, and then also have the right type of content as well that exercises all of our APIs. So in general terms, I'm thinking more and more that, oh, sorry, go on.
No. No, I was just going to say that for the Snappy section of the site, there has been quite a lot of work around personas and developer personas and trying to define different types of developers. And I think we should look into expanding this to other sections.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different web developers, HTML5 developers, which have different backgrounds and different interests, and we should try to have different journeys for them.
Yeah, no, I think the personas approach is a good one, and it's actually one that we followed when we first launched developer.ubuntu.com. Back in the time, it was all about having the right path from concept to developing the app to sending it to the store. And I think with the amount of content that, or with the pace at which we've been adding content in the last few months, perhaps we've lost track of that. And it might be worth actually reapplying that concept to the non-Snappy part of the site, so it's also more cohesive.
Yeah, I agree.
Another thing that I found quite interesting as well is thinking about other ways of bringing people to the content. I got an email from Michael Zanetti. He's a Unity 8 developer, for those of you who don't know him. And he's one of our most active app developers. I think half of the apps on the Ubuntu store, I'm exaggerating here, but half of the apps of the Ubuntu store are from Michael Zanetti. Michael has been working with some folks at vplay.net. Vplay is a games engine, and they've been interested in porting it to Ubuntu as well. And one thing that I found quite interesting is something that Michael pointed out on his email, and it's the way in which they produce documentation for people to test their to try their SDK. I'm just going to post a link to the IRC channel, which is a link to the vplay site. And if you click on get started, they've got a clear path on, or really crisp ways of getting involved in either game development or app development. Also, another thing that we don't tend to do, and perhaps this is because of the philosophy of Ubuntu, the importance that we and our users put into the into privacy. But one thing that they do is, for those who want to voluntarily subscribe to updates, every time there's a new tutorial coming up, those subscribed get an update right into their inbox, which is another neat way to reach out to developers and get them to know about the latest content. I must admit I have spent only some time looking at their website this morning, but so far I've seen what they're doing in terms of promoting their SDK and having this journey. So this might be something that we might want to look at. This is just one particular example, but one thing that we've done in the past is to competitive analysis of different sites. And I know that when we launched developer.ubuntu.com, we looked at what the Android folks were doing, what Apple was doing, what Microsoft was doing, and perhaps it might be worth going back to this type of analysis to see if there's anything that we can do to make sure our content is being used in the right way.
Well, the vPlay website is very interesting, and yes, we could have the idea of having different story right on the front page.
Yeah,
we kind of have something like that with scopes, web, or apps, but maybe we should go head in this story. Hey, Alan.
Hello.
Yeah, I think one thing, while we're talking about this, one thing that comes to mind as well is that right now the Snappy developer story is a bit disconnected from the rest of the site, essentially, and it seems that it's two different sites: phone app / scope development versus Snappy development for builders and app developers for Snappy.
That's probably because it's a whole new adventure, even for us.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that it makes sense that we've given the fact that Snappy is not converged on the phone, and given the fact that Snappy is changing quite rapidly right now, I think it makes sense to have done it the way we've done it. But perhaps we might start thinking in bringing these stories closer together on the website, right on the front page, for example.
Yes. Alan, you are in contact with a lot of developers every day, and they reach out to you, we know. And what's the feedback on the documentation? Can you give us some stories, maybe success stories or not?
No, because people don't tell me when they can find things. They tell me when they can't find things. So nobody pings me on IRC and says, I was just looking for the Unity, indicator API documentation and I found it. Thanks, Alan. Nobody does that. But when they say, there's no documentation about this, Popey, who's responsible for this? Get it fixed. So while I would love to give you a success story, I would spin that as a success story, because it must be that good if I don't get any pings from people. The only people who ping me, who I see having conversations about this, is on Telegram in the Ubuntu Apps group. I sometimes see that someone in there might ask, I don't have any that come to mind immediately, but someone in there might ask, where's the documentation for this or that? And typically someone in there will know and will give the right answer. If I look in that group right now, actually, it usually tells you how many links have been shared. And the beauty of Telegram is I can look for the word developer. And I get a lovely timeline. Oh man, I would show you this screen, but I don't think there's. I think there might be something unsavory on it, so I won't. So just scrolling down through the list of links, today I mentioned one of the tutorials that you're involved with, the Scope to JavaScript one.
Yeah.
And then further back, there are discussions about Download Manager, how to use the Download Manager. That one got a lot of discussion last week. And also people discussing how to use the sort filter model in Ubuntu components. Download Manager came up again. Network connectivity, networking status, conversations, that kind of stuff. So people seem to be looking for very specific pieces of documentation, and other people are finding it. If I look for the word documentation in that group, it's people reporting bugs about missing documentation. So that's a winner as well. Because
right.
The people who are finding stuff are finding stuff.
Of course.
The people who aren't finding stuff are finding bugs that they can't find stuff. So I think that's all round a win for everyone.
I think it might be worth taking a step back and looking at essentially testing ourselves whether we still have got this journey, or whether we want to improve this journey from creating an app, or deciding which type of app you want to create, actually, whether it is Scope or Web App or anything else, and then taking you through the next steps to get started, and then install the SDK and then publish your app.
So I can give you a couple of examples of things that we don't cover. And the reason I know we don't cover them is because there are GitHub branches where people have made tutorials. So if someone's had to create a GitHub template, then that's something we're clearly not covering. And one of those is create an HTML5 local app. Okay? That's one I made, which allows you to easily package up an HTML5 application, with all the necessary bits and bobs to make an HTML5 offline app.
But would you argue that that's material for a tutorial, or rather for a template on the SDK?
Well, either way, if it's a tutorial in the SDK, it should have some documentation that goes with it that tells someone how to do that.
Yes, we might have a tendency to, once there is a template, we assume that people will figure it out.
It works, right? Yeah.
And that's a bad habit.
And I wrote a blog post that went along with that template because I didn't think people would get it. But also I had to highlight in the blog post things that we have to work around, and things that don't work with that template. So that's one example. Another one is using third-party libraries like. So two more examples. One would be something like the way we do it with a file manager and doc viewer. We have a script that goes and gets libraries from Debian packages in the archive, a bit like Snapcraft. We're basically doing ClickCraft. want of a better name.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. That's a good example, though. But I think that's one where I personally, I mean, someone might have another opinion. This is something I'm not sure it's worth documenting until we've got I was going to say Warcraft, until we've got Snapcraft, so that we don't confuse people.
But the problem right now, but Snapcraft will never fix clicks, and right now people are using clicks, and the documentation you're writing is for people making apps that go in clicks. And while I realise the future is snappy, right now is clicks.
Maybe we should try very hard to use all these tutorials and GitHub branches in a way that would fill the gaps in our documentation. I'm not sure how. I certainly don't think we should just copy-paste them, but maybe actively document them and link them in a way people can find them easily.
Well, I think both of those two examples actually are one-page tutorials. I don't think they're multi-page, lots of content. I think it's basically, for the HTML5 one, it's grab this template, fill in these fields. These things are important. These things you need to figure out yourself. Done. There's not a huge amount to that. It's just not documented anyway. The other thing is for the clickcraft kind of thing. That is a very specific use case of I want to create something that depends on something in the archive, and there are plenty of times that people ask, like all the time, people ask me, can I install something in the archive so that my app will depend on it? So that my app, because I can't do dependencies in Click. How do I fulfill that problem, or resolve that problem of not being able to install dependencies on my phone or on my customer phones?
I think this brings the point that yes, I mean we need to fill some gaps, and that this might be like low-hanging fruits or rather obvious actions that we should probably take, meaning like bringing these GitHub tutorials or blog posts into developer.ubuntu.com.
Yes, somehow making our users aware that this exists.
Right.
I'm not talking about doing Google job, but
yeah.
Still,
well, we can integrate them there directly as a tutorial. I mean, we can, if it's a community person who have created them, then we can give credit to them quite easily.
It could be as simple as a link and a page which explains, here are some external tutorials which cover
some community resources.
Right, yeah, additional resources. But actually, just one paragraph, or not even that, like 3 lines saying, if you want to, embed an HTML5 app in, click here for another tutorial. If you want to pull things from the archive, take a look at this template or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think whichever way we do it, and I think we've had an external resources section. We've had external resources sections in the past. The important thing is to, if we've got missing gaps, then to bring in this documentation in whichever way. Actually, are we taking notes on the Etherpad, by the way?
I am right now.
Okay, cool.
I notice, David P., you mentioned replay in the IRC channel. I mean, I didn't see the conversation when you mentioned that, so I don't know what context that was mentioned in.
Oh, I was saying Michael Zanetti sent me an email about vPlay.
Oh yes, I saw that one.
And he had, I mean, he was essentially walking us through how they present, showcase their SDK, and in particular how they bring tutorials to developers. And I was having a look at it this morning actually, and I was thinking it might be a good example well, for us to take a look essentially. I mean, not just vPlay, but perhaps spend some more time doing a bit of competitive analysis on other developer sites, which is something that we did when we first launched developer.ubuntu.com. But as we've been revamping the site, adding more content, we never got back to do again.
Mm-hmm.
So there might be some good ideas in there.
One thing that like not vPlay, but similar to that, there are a bunch of one thing that I've seen a lot of on YouTube is videos where people are like live coding a tutorial. Like they'll spread it over 10 videos or maybe 100 videos if it's really comprehensive, but they start from the absolute basics, and it's not like massively professionally done. It's not like well lit with loads of title. Often they'll just have a boilerplate title and an end, and they'll do 5 to 10 minutes of coding and then stop and then come back next time and we'll add something else and come back, and they create a fully featured application from scratch. Usually it's creating a game, but it's a great way to get small nuggets of information that push you forward, and each one of those videos does a specific thing. So you need a big project that you can carve up into tiny pieces, but people seem to like watching, and they do a lot of comments on these, and they get a lot of feedback, and a lot of the time the person who's making the videos will reference the previous comments and so on in later videos.
It might actually be interesting to do for some of our existing tutorials actually. I mean, we've got the content already, and we could perhaps maybe make them more interactive and by moving them to live videos.
Have we got any like significantly big projects that we could, that I'm saying like would take 10 videos at 5 to 10 minutes each? Or are all of our tutorials, a bit smaller than that? We don't have any like one encompassing.
Well, there are a few ones that are big. I mean, David might David will definitely have a better overview since he's written most of the tutorials. But I know that like the first one, like getting started writing your first QML app, might be interesting to have because it covers different aspects of an application. It's a very simple one, but then David has got more involved ones with writing scopes.
Well, scopes could work very well with this format because there are a lot of modular features like settings, departments, location, and yes, this could work with a scope.
Interesting. And the overhead of doing this, it's basically you just record your screen. You just switch everything else off, like turn off all your notifications, switch off, and just start recording your screen. Make sure the font is large enough, and they can hear you on the audio, and start typing. And it seems to work well.
That's a very nice idea. Yes, very very attractive.
I mean, if there was a tutorial that I'd be happy to make one as a sample and see what it looks like and see if it can be followed. I'd be happy to make one. If you want to give me an action item, find a tutorial that that I could pick up. I don't mind looking stupid like an idiot on video because I don't know how to do it, because I basically don't know how to make a scope, for example.
Well, the way I see it, it would be JavaScript, so it would be fun and rather easy.
That would be even better, because I kind of vaguely know a bit of JavaScript, so... that might be more fun. Yeah.
Yes,
And
and
that
you
would be
don't have
something new as well.
you don't have to compile JavaScript, so you don't have to wait for failure. It just
Right.
fails right now.
Excellent.
Yes, videos are much shorter because there's no compile time before I fail. Yeah.
There is a question from Cheeseburg. Could you have community tutorials like DigitalOcean has? And he gives an example.
Those are really good. Yeah, I think they reward people for making them. They're like, I think they give them like vouchers or something for money off DigitalOcean services. But they are really well written tutorials.
Yeah, I know that we've been integrating them, some of them in the past. I mean, I remember a tutorial from Nicholas from the Corrups team, but we haven't been constant in essentially getting more tutorials. So we've got the odd one in there, but nothing as extensive as the DigitalOcean ones. Now that I'm looking at them, so this could be a nice little project as well.
And I realize it's it's not. There's been talk in the past. I mean, there's two things that DigitalOcean do. One is community documentation. You can submit community documentation. The second thing is they reward you for doing that. And I know we've discussed this in the past about, is it fair to reward someone who writes something and not reward someone else who's written tons of other stuff? It's a difficult one to call.
Looking at the site, I'm wondering if we could embed something like discourse on the developer website to host community tutorials. I don't know if you have the website in front of you, but
it does look very like
yes
discourse,
and it would be easy to set up and maybe disabling comments on posts, but we could give it a try maybe.
Yeah, I like the idea of using something that is editable after the fact. This is where Ask Ubuntu wins over, forums in general. In my mind, is that the problem with tutorials is they can often become outdated. The old classic of how to install NDIS wrapper on your Ubuntu system to make your whatever network card work. We don't need that for many network cards anymore, yet that tutorial is still out there and nobody's deleted it, and people find it. So we would need to make sure that whatever tutorials are created are accurate at the time of writing, but continue to be accurate in the future. And that's quite either a maintenance overhead, or it's you allow the community to edit in the same way that on Ask Ubuntu, people can edit questions and answers after the fact.
So it might be a good idea. Well, it might be an idea to look into that, into integrating discourse. And I agree with all of what Poppy has said. My only concern about integrating discourse is about the maintenance on the extra maintenance on the developer side, and also about essentially having the two discourse instances for Ubuntu, like one on discourse.ubuntu.com and one on developer.ubuntu.com/whatever.
Well, maybe
I'm wondering if we could embed the main discourse feed on or one of the discourse topics on the site.
Maybe we could probably embed a list of tagged questions, questions or topics.
Yeah.
These discourse ones are just fantastic, aren't they?
You're looking at the DigitalOcean ones, Poppy.
DigitalOcean. Yeah, sorry, I said Discourse because I was looking at a Discourse tutorial on DigitalOcean.
All right, yeah. Because I wasn't quite sure. I was trying to find out actually. They look discoursey, but I couldn't really figure out if they are. But yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm looking. I know I'm looking at the practical. I'm looking at it with a practical view. But yeah, I mean, to get to that level of well, visual attractiveness, there's quite a lot of work in there to be done as well, as in to make them look like the Ubuntu developer site.
Is there any reason why we already have, like the other side of it is we already have a Discourse?
Yeah.
Why don't we just create a category in Discourse for curated tutorials, and the good ones we link to from developer.ubuntu.com?
Yeah, that's what I meant earlier on
Okay.
whether we could embed them. I mean, there are two different options actually, but yeah, I think it might be worth using the main one, just for the sake of not having to maintain a new Discourse instance and then be not to fragment the existing Ubuntu.
And a side benefit of driving traffic towards our Discourse instance. Which
exactly.
So. Do we have a list of tutorials we need?
We have a list of tutorials we should do, but we are not sure they are the one we actually need.
Well, okay, those are kind of synonymous, I guess, to some degree.
Well, we don't know if they are the one people need.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we have a backlog of tutorials that we keep on. I think it's still on a Trello board, David.
Yes, it is.
So is that something we should ask in like the app developer community? You know, what type of tutorials would you like to see? Give 5 poll options. You know, scopes, apps, this, that, the other, and then in the comments, people will leave any answer that is not one of those 5. And then that's worked really well for the music app when we ask them what features do you think we should work on. Should we just ask people what type of tutorials do you think we should have? Builds us a list of, a shopping list of ones we like, ones people want, and from that we could put a call out to the community and say, hey, anyone interested in writing these 3, just to like take the 3 at the top that most people ask for, and then you're crowdsourcing which ones people want and crowdsourcing the actual creation of them, and then we can curate them, we can check them for sanity and validity and all that, and then they could either publish them themselves on Discourse and we'll link to them, or they could write them and we'll publish
them. Yeah, I was taking notes, and yeah, if I remember correctly, the poll was on Google Plus, right?
Yeah. I mean, we seem to have a fairly active bunch of people there. The poll could, of course, be anywhere.
No, but I agree that Google Plus is a good place. I mean, most of our app developers seem to be hanging out there, and it's easy to organize as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me 10 minutes to make the music app one, and we got hundreds of replies, and it's formed what we're doing in the next 3 months in the music app. So, it's...
Right. We have a question from Andrew. If I go to developer.ubuntu.com, it takes me 4 or 5 clicks to get to API apps QML current. Can that be reduced? Well, Andrew, I don't know if you have seen the beginning of the discussion, but we have talked about investigating better journeys right from the front page, and that's totally part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it should be about us taking a step back and well, assessing whether the journey makes sense, where we lose developers in this journey, or whether there's a journey at all nowadays.
Andrew also talks about the content hub. People complain that it lacks documentation or examples. That's a case of hidden documentation. There is a very good example on a page in the API documentation, and it's buried there because it's part of the package documentation. That's the kind of thing we should look out for. There are quite a few very good tutorials and examples hidden there. I'm going to add myself a work item to find all these and link them in tutorial pages. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, and another thing that to add, Andrew, is that one of the things that we're aware of is that the search on the community, on the developer side, needs some improvements. Right now, I think we only search on page titles. I mean, we're planning to improve that at some point, but we haven't actually put it on a timeline. The reason being is that it takes quite a lot of non-trivial infrastructure work, and we focus mostly on content rather than infrastructure lately. Well, we have had to focus on infrastructure, but even though we didn't want to, but it's about fixing the deployments for the developer side, and this is the type of work that we would need to do to set up. To put it in simple words from someone who doesn't really understand this, to deploy a search engine on the developer side.
I know that the cloud team is going to help us trying to deploy a new search engine. George is going to look at it. So maybe there will be a brighter future for search.
That's Andrew is asking, do you use Elasticsearch across the Django models? I don't actually know what we use right now. We looked at. I mean, we're not using Elasticsearch. That's something I can tell. We looked at using Haystack, but then when we talked about it with George Castro, it was actually last week. He also mentioned using Elasticsearch. The reason why we talked about Haystack was because we're still thinking of deploying an instance of Ubuntu snippets on the developer side. Ubuntu snippets being a microsite on the developer side that allows you to post your own code snippets and share them with the community, and that's using Haystack to work. So, without being an expert, this is something that needs to be looked at. So I cannot really tell you what the plans will be, but as David was saying, we're talking with the cloud guys to give us some advice on this.
There is also the case of Unity 7 documentation that we might want to look at, since there is another LTS in sight. And we need to verify it and see if there are any huge gaps on this. I know that the stack has been cleaned a lot, the Unity 7 stack, so we have less PCs. and therefore less documentation that we had for 1404. But we will need to take some time to look at this because people are going to continue developing for Unity 7.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This might be something to look into. I mean, right now the Unity documentation is mostly on unity.ubuntu.com, right?
Yes, but I think we are missing a few things. For example, indicators documentation and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay, but I don't know, to summarize, and this might be only my point of view, I think we're pretty good in terms of content itself, but I think we really need to do a better job at making this content more discoverable and making this content more cohesive as part of a story.
Yes, that's my feeling as well. Maybe we should do regular requests for feedback on new tutorials and guides to see how the community feels they can improve it.
Yeah, I think this might be a good idea. We haven't been doing it for quite a while actually on the developer side, and looking at the work that we're doing now with rearranging the IA for Snappy, this might be something we might want to do for the rest of the site as well. Okay, so we've got quite a lot of actions in there. David, as our resident tech writer, do you think you'd be interested in picking some of them? I mean, you will have a better overview of how much work each one of them would require. So this is not like asking you to do everything, but perhaps there are some that you might think, oh yeah, there's something that I'd like to pick up or needs to be done as the next steps.
Well, I'm going to look at how we can work with Discourse to set up community tutorials.
Yeah. We could work as a team as well to do like a an IA review or a journey review as well as we did with Daniel and Tivo from the IoT team or IoT/marketing team.
Especially since we now have a good analytics tool on the website
Right.
that allows to track user journeys. It's specifically designed for this, so this would be interesting.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to create a sample video, see how well that goes, if you like. There's an item on the list. I can pick that one if you like.
Excellent.
Cool. For this, I'm probably going to write an end-to-end tutorial for JavaScript that you will be able to use. Right now, the one we have is more an overview of what's available.
Can you make a working scope from it?
You make a template and then it explains how the template works.
Okay.
It's there is very high overview of the API in general, but it lacks details on what this specific line does.
Okay. I was just thinking it might be worth doing a short one, like without you having to do a whole load of extra work. Do a short one based on some content we already have, just to see if it works and see if, you know, it's easy to follow and that kind of thing.
Well, in this case, this will be either the QML tutorial or a C++ scope.
Okay. All right. Well, I can take a look at them both and see which one like I could do.
I think the QML tutorial would be a fun one to do. I mean, it's pretty simple, and I mean, forgetting the fact about not compiling, it's also very. It's actually quite nice.
Okay, put me down for that one then, as a demo.
So should I add a work item for you?
Yeah.
Okay, looks like we are reaching the end of the session. Anything else, guys?
No, I think we've discussed quite a lot of things. I think we might want perhaps to add another work item to do. I'm just trying to see how we put it in words. I think it might be worth doing this analysis of the whole journey, and I think we should put an action on this. David, perhaps without wanting to assign everything to you, I mean,
yep.
Perhaps, sorry, no. I mean, perhaps we can put an action on you to work with Daniel, myself, and perhaps someone else to do the review, so that we can do it like as a team.
I agree.
Cool.
Would it be worth doing the poll, given that that's something we could fire off and leave alone and let it organically grow over a period of, you know, a week? Because that's like a 10-minute work item. It's not a hard thing to do.
Do you want to take it?
I see David has already written Poppy on there.
Ah, excellent. Okay, yeah, do that. The last poll was successful, so yeah, let's do another one.
We might actually want
you for wording and stuff.
I mean, it might be worth, without trying to complicate it with more infrastructure, it might be worth considering also doing one on, instead of using Google Plus, using SurveyMonkey, but still make it like a really short survey. The reason I'm saying this is because it worked pretty well for Snappy. I mean, I'm not suggesting we need to use SurveyMonkey. I'm just throwing it again as an option because it's something that worked for the Snappy part of the site.
How many responses did you get on that?
I don't know. I'd have to check.
Well, let's look at it afterwards, and we can figure out like.
Yeah. One thing nice thing about SurveyMonkey is that it's easier to process the responses. That's and you can add logic and all of that. But the nice thing about Google Plus is the simplicity, of course.
Well, the other side is it's got a captive audience who don't have to do anything other than go duh on a button.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Anything else? Anything else that we've got on IRC?
Has ended.
All right then. Andrew Hazen is just saying blame Poppy, so I think we'll just leave on that note. So in any case, thanks Poppy for picking up the work items. Thanks David for running and organizing the session.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. See you later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers.